Nebraska goes to Indiana. Like I just mentioned during that last segment, I think in this spot now, this is a opportunity for Nebraska to have a turning point moment under Matt Rhule. And all successful head coaches that stay at different places, they have these moments. Now, hear me clearly. A turning point moment is not the same as a we've arrived or signature win kind of moment. Like Dan Lanning in Oregon, I think he got his signature win the other weekend, or the other night, I suppose, against Ohio State. That was a signature, how do you like me now kind of win. The turning point win, though, for Dan Lanning came last year when they went to Utah and beat the brakes off of a veteran Utah team 35-6. That was the turning point win for Oregon. For Texas, the arrival win, the signature win for Steve Sarkisian. They go to Tuscaloosa. We're there. We're watching them take a knee on the field. Like, that was the, hey, here we are kind of win. But I think the turning point win, the thing where things started to switch momentum-wise for Texas, was the game without Quinn Ewers. You're at home. You're playing Kansas State and Will Howard, and they take you to overtime. And you find a way to win that football game. Again, not the arrival win, but the turning point kind of win to say, okay, this is where they're headed right now. Okay, this is what they've been building behind closed doors. College football sickos, we appreciate y'all being subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. If you have not yet gotten dialed in and gotten subscribed, now is the time. All right, make sure you're locked in. We appreciate you in advance. I think this opportunity for them to go on the road, play an undefeated, ranked conference opponent, national stage, Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, all that on the call, I think this is the chance for them to have that turning point moment. Because the arrival win, if you're Nebraska, would probably be beating an Ohio State or an Oregon or whoever down the line at some point within Big Ten play. I understand they don't play Oregon. Hear me. But I think it can be a turning point moment because of all the things I just said. Big moment, which equates to big opportunities. Now, one of the opportunities, I think, is with Dylan Raiola being the face of Nebraska football. Let's call a spade there. He's the future. He's the face, all that. Your five-star quarterback that came to Lincoln, could have gone to somewhere bigger, could have gone somewhere with a more, I guess, successful logo over the course of the last few years. He chose Nebraska. And in this spot now, you are going to, I think, equip him and probably encourage him to cut it loose because that Indiana D-line, they're solid. So that's a good Indiana defense. So you put the game in 15's hand. You say, hey, go win it for us. You're here for a reason. We gave you the keys for a reason. It's start number 7. Like, go win the football game for us. And so going back to this whole idea of this could be the turning point for Nebraska, if Dylan Raiola is the reason why you win this football game, and I believe he will be, at that point in time you say, okay, so true freshman, on the road, early on in his career, beats a ranked team, undefeated. Wow, okay. So that's where Nebraska's headed. Good to know. Because, again, it's not the arrival, but it is the watermark where you say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, this is where Matt Rhule has pushed this team to. Going out and landing recruits like that. Empowering a quarterback like Raiola. Okay, good to know. Now, secretly, I think the folks in Lincoln hope this is a close football game. Now, I don't think that's probably the first choice. I think they hope they blow the doors off Indiana and make a statement. That's the first part of this. But I think secretly, if you gave everyone some truth serum and you said, hey, you can win the game by a touchdown or you can win the game by 3 points, I think you'd kind of have a split answer there. And if you're on the fence or you're like, what is he talking about? The reason why I say that, if they win the game by 3 points, you got that monkey off your back and all the conversation around old Nebraska and close losses and you can't get it done late. Because last year, this is the stat that was just beat to death like a piñata over the offseason. 5 one-score losses, 5 one-score this, 5 one. Like, that was always the discussion. The one score, the close losses. I understand a touchdown is 1 score, but roll with me here. If they can get it done in this spot in a close fashion, I think at that point, take the scissors. That's my sound for cutting a tie. You cut ties with the narrative that Matt Rhule is somehow snake-bitten and a part of the old Nebraska way of doing things. Because that's what we said last year. Hey, listen, he took over a team and tried to push it to a place that when he got there was not in position to go win football games at the level they expect to. Culturally, the way they did things, they were not at a level yet to win in those big moments. This is as big a moment as they've had, I believe, to this point in Matt Rhule's time there. in terms of the stage, in terms of all the things we've already talked about ad nauseum. So if you can get it done in close fashion, speaking to that turning point idea, it would be such validation, I believe, of Matt Rhule's process. And that's something that he harps on, man. Like, yes, they talk about results in the terms of like, hey, this is where we want to end up at. You know, you peak up every now and then and lift your head and say, okay, we want to get here. But like the way that he runs his football program, man, it is process. It is how we do things. It is details. It is discipline. It is, are you wearing the right socks at practice, the right mouthpiece? Are you, like, all these things. And to be within it, I have to imagine it would drive you crazy for the first few weeks. But once it becomes who you are, eventually you get those results in those close moments. And they haven't had those for the last couple of years, especially last year. They didn't have it. So if you win close in this spot against that opponent, that's validation of everything we've done now for the last year since we got here. The 5-7 year, the 1-score losses, all of that now, you see why we did things the way we did them. You see why our process is paying off, and you get the results now of that payoff, of that process. Now, here's the cherry on top. And they expected this. I think everyone across America expected this, but if they win this football game, the bowl drought, done. Andy Dufresne, rain on the face, out of Shawshank. That would be the vibe. So that's a cherry on top, obviously, to go with the massive win in the massive spot. But again, I think Nebraska wins this football game. I've said that now a couple of times. I think that in this spot now, Nebraska has a chance to maybe not arrive, maybe not have the signature win, but have that moment where it's like, oh, okay, that arrow is actually pointing a different way. And it's not just pointing that way. It's not just potential. It is actually like trajectory and where they're headed.